basically. It
Nice
will
theory.
explode, then suddenly
story,
gravity
that,
will take over and everything will implode.
Lovely story.
No.
Yeah, like a continuous explosion implosion. Hey,
Sorry,
it's not
did
that
I just
hard.
hear you say
Cycles all the
explosion
time, innit?
implosion? Did you just say explosion implosion?
Big bang, big implosion.
Explosion
Is that
is
like
out, implosion is in.
that-
It can't be an
I know.
explosion implosion.
Yeah, I know, but it's like
It's like
an
it's like
engine.
an open closed system.
It's just a rhythm.
Stop it.
No, come on. This is just a theorizing, not claiming anything. But yeah, that
No,
makes
no,
sense,
no.
doesn't it? If
But
there
like
is,
the big
if there
collapse,
has to be
the
a big
the
bang, then
expansion,
that
not
is.
the big collapse or whatever.
It's not gonna drift on forever. It's ridiculous. There's too much dark
You know,
matter.
yeah, I see why you are when sometimes get a lot of hate from us, because at least me personally, I'm not a theorizer. I mean, I don't like theorizing things. I just want to know. I don't like theorizing, and it makes sense, so it might be true. Not really, It's not blastering you. It's
No,
just like you like theorizing a lot,
yeah,
if you know what I mean.
you're pragmatic, but there's one thing you, as a pragmatist, that a lot of pragmatists overlook, and that is a theorist. If they can keep their theories and reality apart, they can actually, because of their predictive capabilities, just their tentacles into the possibility, can potentially see things that other people would just overlook once observations get really done. That's the thing.
But you're ace, Erwin. You're ace.
Thank you. No, but there's nothing wrong with being pragmatic. It's just, yeah.
There's nothing wrong with theorizing either. It's
I
just
try to be as
long as
pragmatic
as long as you know it's theorizing and not
Yeah.
pushing it on people like it's
Oh,
this
absolutely.
is fact. This is
What were
fact.
you just? Are we?
But
were you-
that's how I treat it. The globe, it is a giant fairy tale, and
Yeah,
I
the
kind of
theoretical,
appreciate it.
mathematical
I
model. Yeah.
appreciate it. It's just the people that are religious about it. I don't appreciate those.
Crazy the off.
Just like with the church, it's like fundamentalists that are like really aggressive and hardcore.
And they always
I don't
switch
like
it
them
around.
either. But yeah, just regular people that are just that get it, that just get the spirit of it.
You talk to a
I
religious
like
person,
those
they're always
in
like,
church.
they always tell you about like how they have all the answers and you don't have all the answers. So what was before the Big Bang? Then that's what you lot believe in. That's what really I've had arguments with religious people, and that they've got the same sort of tendencies and they react the same way as Grovers are acting now. Like instead of just like you pose them a question about their faith and their religion, and instead they turn it around to you don't know everything. Well, what's this? What's that? Oh, and it's like I'm just pointing out what you are claiming is incorrect. That's all. And it's the same with the religious people. Same with now it's coming. Same with the Globers.
I would like to say something about Flat Earth and the Flat Earth movement. It is like a digital age church, but not really a church, but like a gathering. And it is like a folklore-based gathering where people just do stuff. It's like our own bar, but it's also
What,
the
Flat
real
Earth?
principles.
Do you mean flat Earth or heliocentricity within flat Earth?
What?
When you said it feels like
Folklore.
when you
Cold.
Don't underestimate the folklore. Okay, that's real knowledge. That's ancient stuff. A lot of it.
Yeah, but what I'm asking is, are you referring to when you say flat Earth? Are you referring to flat Earthers, or are you referring to the ball Earthers within flat Earth discussions?
The bald earthers within Flat Earth. No.
Yeah, I
Hey,
agree.
when the housekeeping come in for the vacuum for the pressurized without a container, I get an answer. So give me a second for the answer.
No.
It's mad though. Like you have to. You have to think, like,
It's so easy to
pressure with
overcome,
the
but they just can't.
This is what I don't want now. Now I've caught curvature out being slippery. I'm just like, am I going to start having to look at everything? It's all going to fall apart now. Like,
Yeah, all of it
Yeah.
falls apart.
That's exactly what happens,
No,
man.
guys,
Everything falls apart.
The deck of
guys.
cards failed.
Theoretically, it's so simple, because if there's simply no vacuum out there,
And it,
gravity works according to the Newtonian.
they say like it's not a vacuum as you
principles,
think it's a
however that's
vacuum.
going to work out. And
They
the
say-
Earth is a
they
ball.
say, like, it's
Yeah,
not
there's going to be a
vacuum.
lot of gas out there. And
It's not a vacuum like you see it, but as gas always tries to escape to where there is no gas to fill out that
yeah,
space.
exactly. There can't be a vacuum of space, but there can be just a giant low pressure zone, not
not what I
super low, but just a little bit lower than near the Earth,
There's
as it
nothing
were.
in there. It's space, isn't it? It's
A
supposed to be
gas
like
universe.
emptiness. If there's no air out there, then air needs to escape into it. That's what air does. That's how it behaves. So why is
Exactly.
it escaping out of our atmosphere into space?
Yeah, but
He's-
space
he's the
can't
answer.
be eternal either. Even the theorists, officials, kind of admit it, and they speculate about that as well. They do know that it can't be
Yeah,
unlimited.
hello.
Do you know what gravity is now?
Gravity is the thing that holds it all together.
Yeah, that's in the ball.
It's the thing that holds
Ball
all the
theory.
ball stuff together. That's what
Oh,
gravity
it's,
is.
yeah, it's the
Exactly.
fabric of the lies.
We're-
Correct.
We're-
Yeah, you're
We're
right.
here
Fabric of
because
the
of
lies.
gravity.
It's what did you call it the other day, Tommy? I thought you said it's the magic word, and you're not wrong, mate.
Oh yeah, they're never wrong. It's the magic, the get out clause sort of thing.
Are you legit, Tommy?
Sorry,
Are you legit?
legitimate as in what?
Actually looking into the flat Earth like it's.
As I said, I looked into it a couple of years ago. I introduced my mate to it, and then he went all the way down the rabbit hole, and I was like, and I was like, mate, how can you say that it's flat? He goes, no, I'm telling you. And I've been arguing with him for about a year. I play computer games. I go to work. I go to the gym. That's me. Then obviously we started getting into debates with somebody on Facebook the other day called Chris. And I was basically giving him a load of shit saying, you don't know what you're on about. I'll chat with you. I got on my stream for my gaming stream that I do. I had a chat with him on there, and I was telling him that he doesn't know what he's on about. He's misinterpreting everything.
No, that was Nathan you gave a lot of shit to, wasn't it?
No, that was it was Chris before I spoke to Nathan, and Chris is
Before
one
you
of Nathan's
rumpus,
followers.
before you rumpus, Nathan.
I don't know.
Yeah, he was rumpusing.
Yeah, it seems you've got a bit quick from being a rumpus to being a I'm a flat earther down here enough.
I don't even know what a
Are you
rumpus.
still agnostic?
I'm agnostic at the minute. I don't know what a rumpus is. What's that? What is a rumpus?
It's a guy.
Okay.
Nah.
Right,
The way
you know
you-
when you
That's
speak
funny.
over
I got a
somebody,
picture of him.
I don't know who
when you're
rumpus
speaking
is.
over
right?
somebody, not letting them respond, that's called rumpus in the hangout, named after Rumpus, who rumpus
No,
at
it's
every hangout.
repeating yourself over and over and over again while somebody else is talking. That is
Yeah.
rumpusing.
Not letting someone respond.
But the full story is, I started having a go at this Chris on Facebook. I started having a chat with him on my Twitch. Then he was one of Nathan's followers, and he said to me, "All right, then if you think if you go and talk to this guy and link me a time and said to go and join their debate." So I came in there thinking, yeah, like, I'll just show them the mountain. It's it's intuitively obvious that's the curvature. Like you have to be deluded to deny it. And
Hey,
then got
Tommy.
put in my place. What?
Can you see my screen?
I cannot at the
That's
moment.
rumpus.
Well, that's allegedly rumpus.
But after watching back the argument I had with Nathan and you guys, and watching myself, and talking it with my mate who's a flat earther, he was going, "But you're not listening. Look at what you're saying." And I was just like, I couldn't like. It took 6 hours. I was sitting up to watching the GGG versus Canelo boxing fight, and he was just going on and on and on about watching the parts where I was getting slaughtered. And then my mate was going like, "But you're not listening. Look, you keep reasserting what you're saying. You don't even understand it yet. You still brought it to the table. Like, what's wrong with you?" And I was like, "I am wrong here, and I'm just like, ah." Oh. And then having to back down from that, then listen to his explanations and forget about my point of view and just take his point of view on and listen to how he sees it and how he explains through his eyes. And then having to look at the two arguments, I'm just like, you know what? Well, that mountain shouldn't be there. It must be atmospheric lensing that's bringing it back up. The curvature isn't what it's supposed to be. If I elevate myself from that position where we can see the curvature, that hump, if I go higher in the air, it will just flatten out. It would, that I know for a fact it would, because I've been in a plane and it's just flat. So
I was going to say to you the other day, have you seen the J. Tolan Media's infrared camera photography from in a plane?
I haven't seen it now.
You need to look at that, man. If you want to see how the thing rises to eye level, the horizon rises to eye level, just look up J. Tolan Media's infrared. Globebusters of... I'll have to find you a link. If someone can find him a link and stick it in the side chat. It's incredible.
Oh, what a day! What a lovely day!
Welcome to Flat Earth Debate. I'm your host, Nathan Oakley, and if you're new to this channel, or you've not done so already, be sure to subscribe and hit the bell notification icon to keep up to date with the Flat Earth Debate. If you'd like to support this channel, there is a super chat that runs alongside each of these shows while they're live, and there's also a PayPal link in the info box below the video once it's rendered. But most importantly, if you would like to join the discussion, simply mute the page you are currently watching, then click the link in the info box below this video to join the panel and express your views on the shape of the Earth. If you do join, please don't swear. If you do, you'll be ejected, and if you are, please don't try to rejoin the stream using stock accounts. You'll be warmly welcome back on the next stream. Please also share the show. Sharing the show obviously increases the live audience, but this in turn increases the chances of a more diverse panel. So please share the show. And one last time, if you're new to the channel or you've not done so already, be sure to subscribe and hit the bell notification icon to keep up to date with the Flat Earth Debate. Now we are joined by Tommy, Was Not Was, Sleeping Warrior, The Plain Truth, Ranty Flat Earth, Jose, Iron Realm Media, Chocolate Saying, and Arwin. Good to have you all.
Yo.
Hello. There seems to be a stalling issue.
Seems
Hello,
to be
Flatty.
Hello.
There
what
seems to be
issue?
a stalling.
Yeah,
Some
it's,
buffering.
Background audio.
I've reloaded it like 4 times. It just keeps stalling.
There
Okay.
seems to be a what issue?
it doesn't seem to be playing through YouTube.
The video is stalling.
Oh, buffering.
Oh, really? I'll
Yeah, and
check
it
the
says
live
on my
stream.
chat it's disabled.
Have a little look.
Nathan's made a mistake.
No.
Video output
No,
low.
it's-
Yeah, I see that. It's loading.
Oh
buffering.
dear. What I'll do is I'll change my VPN and hopefully that'll solve the problem, but it might cut out and we might have to do another start. We'll see. The recording's still going.
Yep.
So, Tommy, now that you're on the right path, don't go veering off thinking about thinking about the upward directional force or the looping.
I won't, mate. I mean, you know, I'll just stick with the strongest arguments, and that's it, really. Just if there's flaws in your game, or there's, you know, just man up to them and just go from there. And like it's sometimes I will stick with what cements me the most, what sounds to be the best argument, and that's it, really. And one that's backed up by evidence and by disproving the curve is a great position. In my opinion, well, that's been disproved. So, what the hell is it then? They are lying to us about stuff, and that's why I'm intrigued now. We're here to learn everything we can and how your views on every.
Listen, I asked Nathan that most nights. Well, what is it we're on then? And the answer is we're never going to find out because we can't put any money to it. But we know what we're not.
YouTube is good. YouTube is up again.
Okay.
Yeah, it
Yeah,
should
it
all be
looks like
working
it's
fine now.
working.
I was just double checking it, but yeah, once I've made sure it's all 100%, I'll go through housekeeping. But yeah, it seems fine on the live stream on my iPad.
Well, that's it. I mean, it could be a lot bigger than they're saying, and that's
Yeah,
what
back
it's
to
still
normal.
perceived to be flat, or it's just
I'll
not
skip it.
the ball. You know what I mean? I'm not
I've said from
claiming
day
that,
one
I'm
it could be the
claiming
size
that
of
curve is the right
Jupiter.
answer.
People laugh at me when I say that.
When you say what I just said,
Yeah, it could be the size of Jupiter.
there's nothing funny about it. Like, these people haven't even done any research or looking into it at all, and they're the ones that are laughing at people that have done it. And that's the funny part about it. Even I was looking at that like, these don't even know what they're doing. Look at the shit experiments they're doing. They're idiots. Blah blah blah. But at least they're actually going out there and actually doing something for a reason. They're actually looking into it. You haven't even looked into it, so you're in no position to criticize somebody that's going out there and looking into it. You're in no position.
Well, they think they're
Others
in a
have looked
position.
into it and they believed it by default.
They
So
think they
They
have
didn't
that
actually
position
do anything
because
after that.
they have the body of science.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They were satisfied.
And what they do, you get people like Miles Davis who continually puts new stuff out about how my work he can debunk and this, that, and the other, and then it gets me to go and actually do some more research in the area. Now, for instance, I just knew that at high tide and low tide, that was the times I could go. Just one sec.
Hi, Mark Taylor.
Hello. Hello. Yeah.
There's another funny phone call from Mark Taylor and Co. and they think it's funny.
All they got.
Are we gonna go through housekeeping?
Yes. Any signs of curvature, gentlemen?
Nope.
No.
I got an answer.
I
What
saw
about
a
axial
hill
rotation?
once.
Earth-based specifically?
I got curve. Any sign of curve? I got an answer.
Oh, Jose, I spoke too
Okay.
soon. Go ahead.
There we go. So soundly is the one word. I went to try to match the observations he have made throughout the last couple of years, and I got 1 out of 2. I got obstruction in the building at the end of the bridge, but it's obviously due to atmospheric conditions. So it wasn't blocked by Earth curve. I wasn't able to replicate the bendy bridge. Now he has some beautiful clear shots of a bendy bridge and a clear obstruction on the bottom of the building. I wasn't able to get it. So as for right now, no. The globe believers accept his evidence as Earth curvature, not just the bottom of the building missing, but the curve on the actual bridge. I didn't get none of the above. So no.
That's a no
Okay, so
then.
no curvature.
That's a no to the answer. Fair enough, Jose. Fair play for trying.
Any obstructions, curvature on them in the perceived world. Any curve is bloody hell. In their perceived world, any obstruction is curvature, and they'll believe it because they want it to be there, regardless of whether it's actually there or not. It's embarrassing.
Riley,
Because it has to be.
have you never stood on a hill before? Come on, you must have seen some curvature.
Now, if I go back to the bridge and I see the bendy bridge, if I see a curvature on the bridge, and if I see the building clearly obstructed in the bottom, not right now like I did, that it was all atmospheric conditions, I will speak up and I will say it appears to be a curve, Please explain. But as for right now, no, I don't have that,
Guys.
Do these guys realise that there's a
chat?
Do they realise that there's a bridge that goes higher and it's curved upwards to let boats under it? I mean, what's wrong with these guys?
Guys, George in the chat has posted another challenge.
Oh
I think
god.
it's
I tried to accept
20,000
his
now.
last challenge and he won't accept. He won't put money into an account, so there's no point in trying to have anything with George. He trolls the chat with comments that are ridiculous, and when challenged, they don't do what he says they do. So George, why don't you come on the panel and we'll talk about your deficiencies, and we'll remind everybody that you don't understand what the Coriolis force is.
No. And the
Okie
panel
dokie.
is full. So, no, thank you.
Don't know why I've got a wonky stream if it's still wonky. According to people in Skype, they're saying I've got a wonky stream, but I'm not dropping any frames. Everything seems perfect at my end, so don't know what the answer to that is. My bad.
Is it mad that I'm receiving racism for changing my position on what I want to believe and what I want to look into? Like, it's mad, isn't it?
What race are you?
I'm mixed
Tommy,
race.
you
I'm
gotta-
half Jamaican and half
you-
English.
You gotta understand that you're like the first baller to actually change their opinion like pretty much live on the show.
Yeah.
So to them, you're like a heretic now. Now they're gonna
that's
attack
it.
you.
You're the enemy now.
Yeah, they're
The
gonna
worst of
attack
the
you. They're gonna
worst.
troll you. That's what it's gonna be because now they think you're just stupid.
Well,
Only by the worst of
or
the
you,
worst
or
trolls.
we got you to join our little cult. That's what they think it is. These morons can't find any damn curvature or gravity or nothing.
Tommy, you're an effing moron now.
well,
Get used
Yep.
to it.
Well, no, don't jump the gun because
as I said, water off a duck's back. If I can take the abuse from Nathan, I can take any abuse from them. Like.
there was a stream yesterday by a chap called Steve HV, who I think is great, and he's just going through propaganda and troll techniques and various other things. So if you don't know Steve HV, go and subscribe to him. Very good channel. And in his channel, he was pointing out that there's a lot of strawman arguments that are represented by flat earthers, mostly to do with maps and models. And when you take a position with a map or a model, you've then got to try and defend it. And that's where you end up being in no better position than the ballers asserting their position. So earlier on the end of the last show, I was saying, well, you don't need to take a position that there's a dome. You just have to ask them how they have gas pressure, because they have the affirmative assertion. They're the ones saying it is a vacuum of space. So you're just demolishing their assertion. You don't have to take a position that there's a dome. If they say, well, how do you have gas pressure? And I go, well, I can easily demonstrate that gas pressure is achieved with a container. I'm not making any assertions other than that's a law. The second law of thermodynamics, entropy, is real. So how does that work in your system? Give me a practical example. To demolish their assertion, which is the current accepted rhetoric. So you don't have to demolish their position. You don't have to come up with a just so story. You just have to question the validity of what is currently the accepted standard about Earth. And in this instance, gas pressure next to a vacuum, it's nonsense. It doesn't work. But that's probably why they've got Bill Nye telling kids these days, we live in a closed system. And they're telling kids, we're finding it very difficult to leave the low Earth orbit because of Van Allen belts and the barrier that's between us and all this sort of stuff. So they tell us on one hand that we've been to the moon, but they simultaneously tell the kids that we're in a closed system. So they're double speaking people right now in terms of space and how it works and what we've done. And it wouldn't surprise me at all if the moon landing kind of fades into some obscure corner over the next 50 years and they just sort of, it'll become this Hollywood movie that's coming out now. That'll be the bit that doesn't go down the memory box or whatever they call it, memory hole. And the actual moon landings, they'll go down the memory hole. And did we? No, I don't think we did. We're still finding it difficult to get through the Van Allen belts according to NASA. That'll be the rhetoric in 50 years from now.
Yeah, they're making a movie about a movie.
I mean, that's why I'm quite glad to take the agnostic position, because I'm not claiming either way. Then all I'm just saying is there's a good argument for both. But obviously, the argument for perspective has taken me away from utter ignorance. So like, they can't say, oh well, you got to tell me this, you got to tell me that. I'm happy in my little neutral position, and obviously I'm warming towards more the flat because of the fact that it's kind of what's the word? It's pulled back the curtain. Do you know what I mean? It's exposed the stuff that I took on that faith, really. Do you know what I mean?
Well, that agnostic position is taken purely out of fear. Now, don't take that the wrong way. What I mean by that is there are certain things that you don't have to ignore or be agnostic about. So, for example, yesterday we had Brenda saying, well, what's your position with how we have gas pressure then? And I don't need to take a position. There are certain things that are inherently obvious about the nature of reality. You know, I don't have to come up with a reason why we've got gas pressure. We've just got it. I breathe it. And that's the end of it. You don't need to give a further explanation. And the same applies with seeing things at a great distance. You don't need to give it any explanation. So when they say, well, why is the building there? You go, well, because we see it. There's no further explanation required. But that is in acceptance of the fact that the Earth is obviously and observably flat from every vantage point. If you hijack certain aspects of what you see, i.e. perspective, you can convince somebody by begging the question and using things like curve calcs that we're on a sphere. But that fear comes from the ridicule that's attached to the obvious. And it is obvious. You know, the Earth is obviously and observably flat. And people like Ranty are going out and demonstrating that on a regular basis, almost daily basis, in fact. And all we have as a retort from the other side of this argument, the people who are not believing they're on a sphere, but anti-flat Earth, those people will only come with fallacy. That's all they've got. All they can do is beg the question when you're presented with something that shouldn't work in their model. So not in reality, we just see the building. In reality, there it is. You know, we see the wind turbines, we see the lighthouse, we see the building, whatever it is, the mountain, we see it. So what explanation is there for that? Well, you don't need to. You're just looking at something. Why explain it? But then you realise that there is an explanation for it if you're indoctrinated into believing you live on a sphere. And that explanation is in abundance. Suddenly that building's no longer a building. It's an observed phenomena. It's something that needs explaining with science. It's like, no, you're just denying the very evidence of your own eyes. You're denying the obvious nature of reality by saying the building shouldn't be there and needs explanation. You know, in other words, life gets a lot easier when you just accept the obvious nature of your world. It is obviously flat. You don't have to worry about what you see and what you shouldn't see. You just see something and go, yeah, I see that building. Not worry about it.
It's also the fear of being wrong again, because obviously I was so sure of myself of the curvature before that I feel like if going all in on another belief base, if not really a belief, but going all in on another way without having to literally thoroughly go through it myself, I feel like that would be making the same mistake again that I made once by believing in curvature.
But there's nothing to believe.
Being wrong again.
What are you believing in though? So like any of the pictures that Ranty presents, he's not saying it is flat. He's just showing you a building a very long way away, and then having other people come and say we shouldn't see it. But if you ignore those people that are saying we shouldn't see it, what needs to be done? What needs to be believed in to just look at something and see it? The answer is absolutely nothing. The position of not having belief leads you to the obvious, unobservable nature of reality by just not believing stuff someone's told you, and essentially assessing your own environment and not taking it on faith that something should or shouldn't be there. You just see it, and that will inevitably, I know it's early days for you, lead you to the obvious fact. It's just obviously flat. There's no other explanation that needs to be put in. But the fact that you have to say that to begin with is the absurd bit. Why should you have to explain the fact that it's flat? It just is. You know, why explain that?
I'm not bothered if it is. Like, I'm quite happy if it is. It's flat. Like, that's not a problem. It's not like I want it to be curved or I want it to be this or want it to be that. It is what it is, and it does appear to be flat. And there's reasons why we're seeing things and explained.
I got an answer on the pressurized system next to a vacuum, and then I will step out for George Hatinook to jump in the panel. Whenever we get to that question, I'll give my answer and then I'll jump out.
Okay, that's a subtle hint to carry on with housekeeping, so I will. Any signs of axial rotation as we only got to curvature?
No.
No.
Nope.
No?
No.
No.
Fair enough. What about... We've already had pressurised system next to the vacuum, so we'll negate that one. And we'll go straight onto the distance to the sun. Any evidence of that?
Nope.
What about the distance to the moon?
No.
What about the distance to the moon? Any evidence of the distance to the moon?
No.
It's in a textbook.
No.
240,000 miles, huh?
Google it.
Any evidence of it?
Textbook is not evidence. Bill Nye is not evidence. Damn.
So, if I draw a picture of you...
I guess no, then.
Yeah, we can go there if you want to. I don't mind. Okay. What about a self-perpetuating molten iron core at the centre of a presupposed spherical Earth? Any evidence of that?
No.
Nope.
Anybody? Anybody at all?
Nope.
No.
Any scientific evidence of gravity?
No.
No.
Darwin, no.
Nope.
Fair enough. What about the presupposition itself, the R value? Shout out to Was Not Was for the super chat. Any evidence of Earth radius, gentlemen?
Nope.
No.
They're not.
Nope.
So, Jose, you said you wanted to talk about a pressurized system next to a vacuum.
Yes. So yesterday I saw Red Rhetorics was doing a live show. I think I was watching a different show in the same spot. So I jumped in for a second, and he was all thrilled and excited that he got his P1000, and he was going to be able to take his P1000 and P900 to the next rocket launch. I don't know if it's SpaceX or NASA rocket launch. And he will record, that way he could put the last nail in the coffin, even though he has done it, to show when the rocket leaves the pressurized system, I go to a non-pressurized system. So Red Rhetorics is my answer to pressurized system with no container. How about that?
I've not
Just
seen
showing
that.
videos of a rocket.
I've asked for that on a couple of occasions, and I got this from Russian Vids. So shout out to Russian Vids. It was his argument point put to Red's rhetoric on a debate. So he jumped in on non-sequitur. I can't remember who was on before. It might have been Dell. And Russian Vids jumped in. And one of his questions was, have you got evidence of them going through what we're describing, the barrierless barrier? And there is none. There is no evidence. We also challenged Apollo, whatever his name is, to present the same. And what we got was edited footage at the crucial moment when they're transitioning into space. So if you can dig that out for me, Jose, and show me evidence of a full, complete transition from the gas pressure that we all know and love and breathe into this fantasy world of vacuums, you know, if you can show me that, then I'd watch it.
I mean, don't get me wrong, I'm not really defending him. I'm just waiting for whenever he shows the next when the next rocket launch goes, I'm gonna take a look at it and see how he's gonna interpret it on leaving the pressurized system. That's what I want to see. But I really don't want an explanation. I want it physically explained, because he can show me a video of Santa Claus, in his freaking, reindeers, but it's an explanation. It's in a video, but is it reality? I'm not sure. I just gotta see it and see if it's scientifically convincing. That's what I'm looking for. I'm gonna step out. George Hatinock, you can jump in, bro.
Sure, I'm not going to deny that, notwithstanding the validity of video evidence to begin with, it lacks verification in most instances when it comes to space. But I'd still have a look at it, see what they come up with, and then pick it apart based on its flaws in terms of its videography. But none of us are going to be verifying anything they present. But the point remains, there is no footage of that actually happening. The transition from the gas pressure we all know and love into the vacuum of space isn't something we observe. Hey, George. Is that a fake George?
Probably. Not really answering.
Say hello, George.
No answer straight away.
George.
I've kicked him because he didn't say hello. If that really was you, George, I'm sorry. It
Tough
probably
cookies,
was
George.
just a troll. Feel free to rejoin, Jose, if you'd like. Or anybody else, for that matter. Mute if you join. Mute your watch page.
I got interrupted as well when that bloody phone rang again. It's like every time that I start talking, the phone rings.
Hey,
That's
Earth Flattener.
Hello.
Earth Flattener. I'm in a hurricane! It's really windy here! I think he's a placeholder. Good enough for me. Then. I'm happy to not have to battle trolls. Thanks for joining, Earth Flattener. Your mic's knackered.
Sounds like he's in a plane.
Nathan, how do you differentiate between the troll George and the not troll George? They both seem about the same.
You don't.
You have to speak.
You don't. You just have to get them exactly. If they can say something when they join, then you know it's them. But the chances are it was the fake George in the chat saying, I'd like to join to talk about Coriolis. And we'll go, oh, must be real George, until he kicks everyone out.
As soon as he speaks, you know he's a troll.
Yeah, I mean, it might have been the real him, actually. You just don't know. Sometimes it takes a while to actually connect up your mic to the Hangout software, not physically, but just in software terms. So sometimes we kick people and they go, hello, as you've kicked them, because it's just taken that long for their mic to kick in. But, yesterday's two shows were an absolute troll fest, mainly because we were picking apart George and his arguments.
No, like to finish the point about the experience when I was younger about this girl that I was seeing, and her friend was jealous, and I had to trying to tell her friend that she was the one causing problems between us, and I got a demonstration. I proved that to her that she was lying, because she was so biased and she had so much loyalty to her friend. She still continued to argue against me, even though she knew it as her friend who was causing the problems. And that's kind of like one of the reasons I looked at people being biased and holding on to something even though they know it's fundamentally flawed wrong. And that's why it was easy to, I think it's one of the things that also aided me to feel like I don't want to be that person that knows that something isn't adding up, but only sticking to it due to loyalty or bias or because it's family, friends, or a belief. Do you know what I mean? So just if something's being exposed to be the problem, then face the problem and just, go from there. Otherwise, you're just going to be stuck in that frame forever. That's why I think experiences in my life and things that I've seen is also aiding me to this point where so people thinking that it was so easy for me to transfer overnight. I literally went out of attack. I had a battle. I lost a battle. I reviewed it, and I come to the conclusion, I was wrong, and it's better being a man and stepping down. It's nothing to do with being fake or to do with being anything else other than that.
Yeah, but that's the point right there. Once you reviewed it and saw that you had flaws to your side of the story, you were able to come to the conclusion that, damn, I am wrong.
Simple as
A lot of people can't do that. That's the problem. Is that, no, I can't be wrong. The science has to have an answer. That's what it's got to be.
Yeah. Or you're just doing this because of this, or you're this because of that. No, just the truth.
Because people don't like the notion that we don't know everything. people want to believe that everything's been mapped out, we know everything, you know, and
That's really
people
only
don't
people
like.
claim to know absolutely everything are religious people. Like if it's science admits it doesn't know everything anyway. It doesn't know what happened before the Big Bang. There's certain answers in science that they don't know everything. You know what I mean? They don't know how to recreate, fusion like they do in the sun. They don't know how to do certain things already. So just because we don't know how to do things or we don't know how to explain things doesn't mean there isn't an answer for things.
Pseudoscience knows everything.
Yeah.
But yeah, you're right, mate. You know.
All right, boys, I'm back. Sorry, I had a very important phone call to take. Her name's Caroline, in case you were wondering. Shout out to
I
AZ,
think we knew
chick.
that.
Carry on.
Yeah, sometimes you just sit there and you think to yourself, like, why? How is it? I've shown her that it's her friend that's the problem, and she's still having a go at me. Why can't she see that? Like, what's wrong with her? And so, you look around, you see people do certain things, and you think, I don't want to be that person. I don't want to be like that. When you see behaviour and you see things in other people that you don't like, then realise it. Sometimes you can be that person that ends up doing that, and when you address it, just you have to avoid it, and you'll become a better person for it. If I see someone putting a needle in their arm, I'm not going to go, that looks like a good idea. I might do that as well. You take out the good examples, don't you? You weed out the bad ones. So by being ignorant and by being stuck up my own arse and arrogant enough to think that I can present something I don't even understand as an argument, it's just people on the beach. Sad.
Yeah, the other thing with the ballers is they do force you to do more work. So in some respects, they're the useful idiots. Let's put it that way. Miles Davis, for one, is a useful idiot. He's a useful idiot. I mean, he's put a couple of videos out recently, and to be fair, I've just known that I can go down to the beach at high tide and low tide and do my observations. Mid tide's always a bit of a mess, yeah. But with him doing this, it's forced me to look into the reasons why. And apparently Morecambe Bay is well known for being a very treacherous place with these sandbanks and these different things, including something called a tidal bore. So when I looked into that and I looked into what's going on with the rip tides and the tidal bores, and yeah, it does. It forces the water to go up as it's trying to. The water's trying to push out, and the water's trying to push in, and effectively it rises up, and it causes all kind of big waves and all this kind of stuff. So cheers, Miles Davis. You didn't look into that, did you, you Burke? Again, he just looks at stuff and thinks there's an explanation. Right now, with us, we look at it and we say we see it because it's there. He looks at it and they always say, "Oh no, that's curved around the Earth." But when it suits them and it looks like it's curved, well, then it's okay. Then nothing's going on there. Have you noticed that?
That's what you mean, yeah. I've noticed it, you have.
Like, oh, right, okay, so it looks like curved. Well, that's curved then. So was there any refraction going on in this then? No, that's right. Okay, well, what about another observation that looks like a picture? Oh, well, that's refraction. Yeah.
And then claim that you don't understand and you're not listening, and it's just it's a sick cycle. But every flat earther was once somebody who believed in the globe. So who's taking the next step? It's not the Globers. They're still believing in whatever. They're trying to give you knowledge on stuff that is already fundamentally out there. Like everybody knows the story of the globe. Like it's not like you're telling me something I didn't know about it. I already know that's curvature, or apparently it's supposed to be curvature. I already know that's because of this rotation of the Earth. It's nothing new. You're not telling me nothing new. But we've gone a little bit step further, looked into it, and realised, oh shit, that's wrong. This is wrong. Look at this. No, you just don't understand it. No, just have a look at this. Like it explains it.
I think I'll do a live stream later about it, actually, rather than spout it all on here.
No, that's good, man. I want to hear
yes,
more about
please.
It.
What, you want to see it on here?
Mine too. Yeah, I want to get a bit more information on it. See where he's trying to point out to you.
Okay, I'll share my screen.
I think Ranty wants a bit more appreciation. Please show us, Ranty. We really do genuinely appreciate it. And I'm not saying that even sarcastically. No, I'm not even being sarcastic.
Okay.
I'm being genuine. I actually genuinely really do appreciate everything you do. I'm not being sarcastic in the slightest.
Okay, well, it says, so I'm looking up kinds of things, like this is from The Guardian about science. It says Morecambe Bay is a treacherous place. The combination of fast tides, quicksand, draining rivers, shifting channels, and sheer unpredictability has trapped the unwary for centuries. It goes on to say, the booklet published by Morecambe Bay Partnerships explains that the bay is dangerous because it is a dynamic, ever-changing, and sands shift and channels swerve. The bay's broad funnel-like shape and shallow depth affect the tidal ebb and flow, creating strong currents. Tidal bores can roar over the sands at speeds of 9 knots. So there's all this stuff going on. And when I looked, obviously I'll show you where Morecambe Bay is now. And obviously this is Morecambe Bay here. So we've got all this area that I'm filming across this Morecambe Bay. So this is what they're discussing and how this area is fairly treacherous. So whenever I get the good stuff, it's either at very low tide or very high tide, when there's no water pushing in or water pushing out, because there's an equilibrium between the tides. Let me show you what I'm talking about with this. Right, so, oh, hang on, rip currents, where are we? So if we're going into the rip currents, we're looking about them having different colour. So they can have different colour from the surrounding water. Some can be opaque, cloudier, or muddier, etc. So from a higher observation point from this part, we can see that exactly looking across Morecambe Bay. We've got cloudy areas, we've got deep, dark blue. You can see that this is obviously what they're talking about. This is typical of the currents that in this area. Again, Miles Davis hasn't looked into this. When we look into tidal bores and stuff, it goes on to speak about these tidal bores, and they only happen in the, I think it's the, when the tide's coming in. I just need to find that particular part. But anyway, it says bores occur usually in areas with a large tidal range, typically more than 6 meters, which we do in this area, between high and low water, which obviously is the times that I'd prefer not to film in, because this is the issues that I run into. And where the incoming tides are funneled into a shallow, narrowing river or lake via a broad bay, right? So that's exactly what the description is of this area here. So essentially, when I show you this from, so that's showing here. So let me get down to the bottom. So this was at 6 meters 55. Was it the 6 feet? No, sorry, this was at 1 meter 55, this tide. So it was absolutely stationary. The tide wasn't moving at all. I've checked that out, the data and everything. So this is the imagery we get with that. I say it's not moving at all. It's just, as it seems to be moving. But it's literally at low tide, 1 meter 55. And we get this nice clear imagery. And the stuff that he's gone on about, which is this one, and we can see how fast the tide's coming in here and swelling up. The height of the waves on each one, you know, that particular wave that's just past the lighthouse has probably drenched out around about 20 foot of it. And we've got the difference. We've got the ebb and the flow of the tide coming in, and then there's the pressure of the tide, you know, the water wanting to push its way back out. And this is what's causing this characteristics of what you're seeing here.
Like a bulge of water, basically.
Yeah, you've got water trying to push in, and you've got water trying to push back out, and you've got it's going to rise up, and then you've obviously got fast flowing areas where the water's trying to escape, and they go into these little channels. So you've got faster water escaping over the incoming tide, and it's rising it up. Everything's being chucked around in this area at this time. So he's picked this particular video to discuss that about, and this is exactly what's going on. This is exactly what's happening. And I didn't understand this until probably 2 hours ago when I started looking into it. I only knew that I only ever get good stuff at low tide or very high tide.
Sorry, can you just go back? Pause it. Go back about 10 seconds. There's a wave. If you just play it from here and hover over the pause button. There.
Where?
So go back under just before the lighthouse goes right of frame. There's keep pausing it and unpausing it so you can see how much you see of the light. There you go.
Oh, there.
Yeah. So you can literally see the effects of what is causing this obstruction. So if this swell was even bigger, that would cover more. And because it's in the distance, and you've got a very narrow angle to what you are seeing, the waves in the distance are far more likely to cross the midpoint of your field of view, therefore obscuring things in the distance. And there's an active demonstration of it happening in real time. So that wave it's not more than, what, a couple of feet? 3 feet at the most? But because it's in the distance, it's suddenly obscuring something that's considerably smaller in the background that's, tens of, or maybe even 100. How high's the lighthouse? Sorry, I should know this.
Well, right, okay. So what we're actually seeing of the lighthouse is essentially about 40 feet, I would say. So it's actually, that wave is covering about probably 18 feet.
Exactly. So you've got something that's probably 2 or 3 feet obscuring 18 feet of something in the background because it's going above the midpoint in a very narrow field of view, or a narrow angle of view in the case of the stuff at the bottom. So it's easy to obscure with waves. It's just yet another atmosphere property that needs to be taken into account. This is sod all to do with Aries diffraction and everything to do with something literally being bigger because it's in the foreground, i.e. the wave.
Well, it's like a washing machine in this area. When it between tides, between the high tide and low tide, it turns it into like a washing machine. Everything's being chucked up. You've got water trying to get in and water trying to get out, and they're colliding, and it's throwing stuff up, and it's creating false readings on the heights. It's actually forcing the water to rise up by virtue of you've got pressure of the tide pushing in and the pressure of the water pushing back out and resisting it.
So I just stop you here, but
Just go back to that picture, Randy.
The problem you got with this guy is he trying to say that when the tide's out, that's you trying to manipulate the curvature, and obviously that's the normal bit. Is that what I'm getting from this?
There's always one rule. One rule for globe heads. Any obstruction is always Earth curve.
Now that's just a sec. We was talking about the curve calculator there. If you were going to represent this image on their curve calculator, what you would be drawing is an 18-foot wave on the top of the crest of the ball, or the arc that you draw between you and the lighthouse. You would actually draw an 18-foot wave because that's, from the observations, what you're seeing, isn't it?
Yeah, everything's factored in terms of its orthographic size in feet and inches. So therefore, when you map this out, well, that's what you've got. You've got an 18-foot wave. No, you haven't. That's just the misrepresentation of the curve calcs.
But whenever I get good imagery, so when it's calm, so when the tides have equalised and there's no wind, that's when I get the good stuff. So I can go at high tide or low tide, and I can see absolute flat. And that's what I've been able to do. And then I've just known that in this area, don't go between mid tides because this is the kind of stuff that you get. And if you look at the title of this video, it's just called New Location, where I can really smash the ball, Flat Earth. It's literally showing you my location. I went down, I found it. It was between mid tides. I put the video out. But this is a typical example. This wave here is, right now it looks like it's probably blocking out 20 feet, half of that, just that one wave. But you wouldn't go and try and get some accurate measurements in conditions like this anyway. You would rather go when you're looking across something that's mill pondy, because that way you're getting a good look at things in the distance, and you can't say that there's one thing affecting it or the other. Yeah. So, like I say, it's just typical Miles cherry picking. But without his putting his video out today, or I wouldn't have gone and found out the exact cause as to why. I knew that the location was treacherous and you get all this stuff thrown up, but I didn't realise that it was so dangerous with the riptides and all this other stuff that's been going on. So it's educated me. So just goes to show that he hasn't done his research, because if he'd have done that, he'd know that this is what happens in this area. We get this Morecambe Bay is renowned worldwide for being very treacherous with the sandbanks, etc. So egg on your face there, Miles, mate.
Where you get caught cockle picking and then get caught out at sea because it comes in so fast.
Yeah, I mean, people died. Where is it? It says it on here. 19 Chinese cockle pickers drowned when they were caught by the tides.
That wasn't P1000 footage, was it?
No, that was P900 footage.
I was going to say, someone in the chat's asking, this is quite an old observation that we're showing here. Can you just detail it?
Oh, yeah, it is. Yeah,
Can you just detail the heights and distances? Because there's a few people, obviously, in the chat that may want to beg the question, assume R, and then tell themselves that they're seeing curvature. So if you can tell us the heights and stuff so that those people who want to assume R can do that.
Okay, well, this was the exact location, which was from here. Right there. So I can give you exact distances, etc., from this location. So to the lighthouse, I mean, again, it's not really any proof of anything. It's literally just saying, hey, I can go to this area and I can do some observations from here because there was a ledge that I could lie on and I could get right up to tides without having my camera wet. But anyway, 10.71
Hold on a second,
miles.
Ranty. Sorry, is that really you, Travis? Travis, is that you? Yeah, okay, good. Yeah, okay.
10.71 to the lighthouse. That's in miles, not kilometers. And then when we go further on, we've got Devonshire Dock Hall, which is here. So Devonshire Dock Hall, we're looking at essentially 15.6 in that sort of general area. And
what about the lighthouse? What about the lighthouse?
Sorry?
The lighthouse, please. What's the distance?
Yeah, I just said that. Is it 10.41?
10.41 and 15. Okay, cool.
10.71. Sorry, 10.71.
So if we're Miles Davis, call it 8.
Yeah, call it 8 miles if you're Miles Davis, and give myself an elevation of 40 feet. That would be typical Miles. But anyone's can go and look at these videos. I've had them up. It's not like there was nothing to say that there was any flat Earth proof in this. This was just saying, etc., that this is my new location, giving you the details of where it is and the reasons why I picked these locations to do some tests. It was nothing to do with anything other than, hey, look at this nice new place I can go to do research. So he's cherry picking again, but that's what you do. That's what he does.
Shame because you're going out there to do some observations and tests, and all you can do is just try to ridicule any little thing you're doing wrong, mate. You know what I mean?
I've got 200 videos on my channel, and the couple of videos that he's picked are essentially, ones that he feels that he can claim a win from. Which there's nothing in these that even says there's any proof of flat or anything. This is the location. This is what I can do. But obviously, like I say, these tidal bores and everything, this is all new information for me. But it helps explain why I don't go during mid-tide.
Yeah, exactly. And it's like that bold stuff, and he's just jumping on that and going, "Oh, that's the curve. You've done everything else is just invalid." But that one example, which you can explain why that seems to be that way, and he's just shitting all over everything else and just taking that one example.
Exactly. So I'm not really too concerned with him, to be fair, but it's another example of him not doing his research. When he said that the lighthouse should be visible, you should see all of it because it's literally on the top of the hill. After every time, I must have said it 100 times that no, it's behind the sand dune, and I've provided many different observations of showing it behind the sand dune, and he still put a video and has left it up saying that it's sat in the hill and I should see the house, which you can't see something that's behind something.
Your next job is to get your spade out, Ranty.
Well, he's appealing to people that just want to find any reason for you to be wrong, and there's going to be a certain number of people that it messes them up inside, and then they go searching for a debunk because you keep showing the same thing over and over. They find Miles Davis and he says no, he's wrong, and they go, it's okay, everything's good again, it's okay, I can relax. So he's appealing to that audience, and if he has to lie and cheat and deceive people to appeal to that type of natured person, then fair enough, that's your audience. Good for you, Miles Davis.
I need to look into who this guy is, man.
I wouldn't even bother. He's like for instance, in his first video he did about me about 3 days ago, he increased my elevation above sea level from my stated, I think it was 6 feet that I'd given, and he then decided to say, let's just say he was 14 feet above sea level, And then instead of giving the correct distance, which was 13.77 miles, he said, "Oh, it's 13.5." He then said, "Oh, to Barrow-in-Furness, the buildings there, they're just 18 miles away." Well, no, they were 18.77 miles away. On all these little tricks, by knocking a few meters off here and half a mile there and putting me up in elevation.
Do it, Adam, because you're already at a disadvantage because you're trying to go against what everyone is supposed to believe, and every flat earther automatically gets like you're at a deficit. As soon as you have that view of a flat earther, no one's really going to take what you're saying that holds water anyway. Do you know what I mean? Like you're already at a disadvantage. The last thing you need is somebody fucking pissing on your chips.
It happens all the time. We're used to it. It's like, you just keep swatting them away, but there's a reason why, like I say, I mean, nobody's really touched this evidence that I keep putting out. When it's at low tide or high tide, it completely knackers their ball model up because it doesn't match. It's as simple as that. And Sandra did a video, Nathan, that one that she did with the 4K P1000? And she saw the platform, the oil platform. I did some calculations for her on that. I could get her down to seeing roughly around about 40 feet above sea level. And at that distance, there should have been about 180 feet of curvature.
What was the distance?
It was like 18 miles or so, in that sort of area.
The P1000's awesome.
Yeah. Yeah, it is.
Just want to say my apologies to the people in the audience who've got a wonky stream. As far as I can tell, there's no issues at my end. I don't know why you've got problems, so I can't give you any answers. I'll look into it once the show's over. We've only got about 5 minutes left anyway.
Yeah, so she didn't do any calculations on it apart from giving the distance and what should have been missing. But that, essentially you shouldn't have seen any of that. That entire platform should have been gone.
Yeah, this is what I'm saying. They're not listening to that. They're just rather just go on to the other stuff and just try to say that you're doing stuff wrong, rather than looking at the fact that you've already proven that they should be visible, and that's what they need to digest. But rather than digesting that, they'd rather look for something to pick at. Probably like female behaviour, isn't it? Really? Sorry, so like these females out there, I love all females.
Yeah, that's probably the third time we've done it. So the first two I let slide because it was funny when you told Rumpus he was being like a girl. Because he just keeps talking louder and more when he can't get his point.
Nice. Like they give me a headache. You don't understand. Like I'm surrounded by all of them, and they're all just screaming and shouting, and you're like, oh, just
Tom, we know what you mean, though. We know what you mean.
We know what you mean, but just if I was a woman hearing that for the third time, if I heard that for the third time and I was a female audience member, I'd think, look, right, number one, I don't do that. But yeah, so I know what you mean. I know what you're getting at, but please don't labour the sexist point. It'll just get you grief in the comments.
Sorry, man.
It's all right. Tommy's.
I'm just looking out for you, man. That's me looking out for you. I promise. I'm not having a go at you. I get what you mean, and it was funny with Rumpus because that is what it was like. How you described a nagging woman. Not a woman, but a nagging woman. Just talking continually and not listening to a word you say and talking over you and then talking more and then talking faster and then repeating everything over and over again. We get the picture. It was funny.
Just put us on, Nathan. I'll just show people that platform because that shouldn't, Sandra knows that 174 feet should be missing, but you shouldn't see any of it then. That's just a mirage. It's not really there.
Well, what's the height of the rig?
It's about 180 feet, thereabouts.
So in other words, it basically should be all gone.
Yeah.
If you beg the question, assume R, ignore perspective, and use the begging the question perspective hijacking curve calculator, just to add that.
So, yeah. So, this would be a typical baller saying, okay, well, where's the bottom 40 or 50 feet of it? Yeah.
Well, you answer them with that last video that Miles Davis hijacked and say, there's waves, there's stuff that's going to be 18 miles in the distance that's only a couple of feet tall that can easily block 18 feet of a lighthouse at 10 miles. So this is further and the effects are more severe. If you've got a 3-foot wave at 15 plus miles away, it's going to massively obscure the thing behind it just by virtue of perspective. and that's demonstrable.
That's what they want you to do, isn't it? Discuss that and ignore the bloody obvious. And that's what all the criticism is, I think, Ranty. It's just to go and argue the minutiae, which really is what you're discussing in terms of where they're saying there should be 44, but you're ignoring the bloody obvious that none of it should be there. And it's make that minor detail sound a lot louder than dealing with, you know, the reality that you should not see any of the image.
Exactly, and this was literally, I mean, the video title of the video is just it's just comparing the two, the P1000 versus the P900. Saw the platform, just decided to film it. There's nothing special about the day, you know. It wasn't like it was cherry picked because it was a very nice day or anything. It was just let's go out with the two cameras. Let's have a look at what we can see. Oh, right, there we go. There's the oil rig. Like, let's compare it. Right. We don't need special days. Yeah, we don't need special days. We don't need to say, oh, we need this atmospheric conditions for it to be curving around the curvature of the Earth for us to see it. We don't go out to cherry. We just go out and we see it. It's there.
You shouldn't have to pay this guy who's trying to like discredit your work. Just ignore him and just move on and continue to put more evidence out there that continues to crush him. I feel like, you know, it's a wasted energy of you trying to have a squabble with this guy who's trying to discredit what you've done. You've gone out there and done something he hasn't. If he wants to debunk it, tell him to go and get his camera and go to the same position you went and to do all the measurements, to record all his work, and then to prove it properly, rather than just making a little comment, trying to discredit, tell you what you're doing without even actually knowing it.
Nathan, you know, I don't necessarily see it that way. I think it's annoying now at the time, but if you look back over the time of the videos, it's a bit like with the flat Earth debate itself, when you've argued the minutiae from a video log point of view historically, all those little questions that if you've just done the one video and you haven't had to answer all the and rebut all the fallacies and the and you know the small petty details that they're arguing, if when you look back in a few months, that detail really does give a full analysis of your work, Ranty, I think, and it helps people who have addressed the fallacy arguments that are built up against it.
What do you think about this compression that we're seeing on just not just the boats now, but also the buildings? Have you seen those? Compression from the bottom parts of them and such.
You're not being presented, I don't think. I can't see.
I know, well,
Like
he's
the
not. He's just asking a question, but
yeah.
as he's asked it,
So
I'm going to put him on the spot and say, for third day in a row, have you watched that video about Aries diffraction with Good Times for All and myself?
I've got halfway through.
Fair enough. Have you got to the bit where he's doing the slideshow presentation? He's also done it on Adam's show.
Yeah. Well, he's a member of the realm, so
he is. He is. Big shout out to Zachary Zabala, otherwise known as Good Times for All. GUDTIMS number 4 ALL. If you want to subscribe to Zach, awesome YouTuber.
Yeah, he'll be on Friday night. We're just having a ramble Friday, so I think we'll have a little chat again about Aries diffraction, because it does. Once you understand it, it really does help you understand what's happening in the images.
Well, that's it, because things do disappear from the bottom up, and it's not that they're going over the curve of the Earth. And the more people that do the same sort of research, the more evidence we can gather. You know, I've already got a ton of it. I'm sure Zach has too. So,
I gotta tell you that Stena line observation that you did, the way it got squashed at the bottom, that really helped me understand what the hell was really going on, because I just couldn't understand how things were just getting squashed like that. But with that, you could literally see it.
Truly awesome shot, that, Ranty. Truly awesome.
Yeah, it was. Because you could still read it, even if it was squashed. And that's supposed to be behind curve. I mean, it's blatantly obvious.
It saves 1,000 words, those images, mate. They are. Explain exactly what's happening with the compression.
And I think it's all to do with that, like you say, it's that narrow angle as well.
Can you bring him up?
Huh?
We're
Bring
going
it
to
up.
round out. I'm hoping that I'll think of another subject while you look them up, but maybe we'll go back to having a quick look at the latest massive name on Flat Earth before we round out this show, because there's basically what can only describe as a huge celebrity amongst us now. But we'll have a look at Simon Dan in a moment. Yeah, we'll get to Simon Dan shortly.
I was waiting for it to say it. Who? Simon Dan?
Who?
Simon Dan. Who?
Simon Dan.
Who's that?
Was that a long enough distraction, Renty?
No.
Oh damn!
I'm looking for it. Hang on, wait a minute. What are you doing to me?
So Simon Dan's where I got that gravity pulls down the hormone in the seed thing. That bullshit. Fucking hell. Bullshit.
He's called Simon Dan, right?
It's his little magic globe that he has
Anthony
behind him.
specifically asked him, said, "Give me scientific evidence for the distance to the sun," and he came back with not one smidgen of science.
Full of assertions.
I can show you this one. It's not the one I was using yesterday, but it's good enough.
Cool.
I need to organise my stuff better. Let's be honest.
Ready when you are.
Yeah.
Here we go. This would normally be on a blink test. So if it didn't have the word stenoline, what they'd say is they'd put the top one over the bottom one and blink it, which means, they'd use Photoshop to have one flashing over the other, and they go, what's obscuring the bottom, I don't know, 30 feet of this boat at 7 miles? That's curvature. That's what the curve calc say should be obscured. Until you get around to going, look, you can still see every part of the letter and the orange bit at the bottom. It's just squashed. And then you look into Airy's diffraction and the angular size limitation, and you go, oh, so it's purely perspective then. This is what happens when something's very far away. It gets more and more squashed because of the limitation of your viewing angle until eventually it's nothing and you can't see it. But that's not to say that something that's higher than it, something that's bigger, can't still be seen, even though it'll squash into nothing and literally vanish from the bottom up. But there we go. This is the process of something disappearing from the bottom up. It gets squashed first. And as you can see from the stenoline, you've got all the words, you've got the orange bit along the bottom, nothing's being obscured by Earth curve. But as I said earlier, Tommy, any obstruction, in this case, not obstruction, but compression, is always Earth curve in the mind of a globe head.
Yeah, I know.
What's good about this image, Nathan, is the compression differential, as Ranty shows with a little box picture, how lower down you've got much greater compression, and higher up at the top of the ship that there is a lot less compression of that part of the image. In fact, it matches up virtually, I think, doesn't it, Ranty?
Yeah.
The fact that you can still see the orange line even in the compressed version is to me the biggest part, because it's like that orange line on the bottom, you can still see it even though that's supposed to be behind curvature. I mean, that's insane.
I put a video in the description in the hangout, and that shows like a boat further in the background and a boat that's closer to you. And when I looked at that a while ago, I used to think like, oh, that's blatant obvious for curvature, because you got a boat that's further out that's dipping down, and a boat that's closer that's I think it's the same sort of boat. It looks like it's got the red thing on it. But when you actually understand how perspective works and how everything after the horizon appears to be sinking down, and then when you have things that are really far in the background will be magnetized by the atmosphere, the boats aren't even in proportion, and the one that's close to you looks like it's smaller than the one that's further in the distance, and it's a great example of like atmospheric lensing, for how things dip down after you hit the horizon, and how things can appear before the horizon, because you'll see them in full view because they're closer.
The other thing these guys ignore is the leaning away of things, because if we live on a ball, if something is going over the curve at the horizon, it should be leaning away from the observer.
Yeah, but they say that it's such a
that.
small angle that it wouldn't be noticeable by the eye and all that, don't they?
Yeah, but we're still seeing it go over the curve. See how ridiculous that sounds?
Yeah. When you're in that contradiction, you don't see it.
Hey, you guys! I did a thing today. I filmed this boat for 20 minutes, and right at the crescendo of it disappearing, right? I'm proving obviously that it doesn't disappear due to going over the curve. But Watch what happens right at the very end. Watch. This is where the boat is. There's the top of the boat here, and there's the hull of it. Just watch. It just merges into the air. It just disappears. Look at that.
So the refraction of it is sat in that band where you have Aries diffraction, and it's getting more and more acute. The angle is because it's getting further away. The distance is increasing into that angle until it vanishes. Did you hear my shoes example, by the way, Adam? You may not have heard it.
Oh, yeah, it's a good one.
Is he still
Go
there?
on then. I don't think so. So.
Okay. So
yeah. The monster. Yeah, exactly. The that's exactly the point, isn't it? You still won't see the shoes, but there'll be legs coming out of the.
I'll give it again. That was my ham-handed way of saying, "Come on, let me give my example again."
Well, that's why I gave a little bodge for you then to.
Fair enough.
You know,
it was a fair old bodge. So you've got a guy, and he's got his mate, and he's standing, taking a picture of his mate, just a normal picture, 6 feet away, and he says to his mate, "Take off your shoes." So the guy takes off his shoes, and then his mate, who's now got no shoes, runs out of frame of the picture, and then the guy with the camera backs away, and as he does so, the shoes get smaller, and as he gets to a significant distance, they go from being maybe 4 pixels in the camera to being 2 pixels in the camera. So then he backs away a bit further, and they become 1 pixel in the camera. Then he backs away a little bit further, and they vanish. The shoes are too small to see. The angular size is so limited with such a narrow angle to the shoes, which are now on the horizon, that you can't see them anymore. But then you get on your phone and you go and put your shoes back on where they are. And the guy runs across back to the shoes and puts them on. And you can see his ankles, and you can see his legs, and you can see his head and his shoulders and everything else about him, but not his feet and not his shoes, because they're still too small to see. But you can see the rest of him because you've got a wider viewing angle to him. Even though the angular resolution of his shoes is too small, that's not to say that the rest of him can't be seen, and it can. So he has effectively disappeared from bottom up. His feet are missing, not behind curvature, but due to an angular size limitation at distance. Anyway, there you go.
That's not because he's got little feet then.
No, and not to do with earth curvature, and everything to do with the limitation to the ground where the angle is the smallest, lowest down. So his shoes are going to be the first thing to disappear. That's why things disappear bottom up. But when they're in that band, that point between 2 pixels and no pixels is effectively what Ranty's capturing here, about 10 miles away. You know, things are going into that band. And that's where you see Aries diffraction in action.
You can actually start to see it starting to mirror this. I mean, literally, because I filmed it for 20 minutes constantly. The wind was horrendous today. It was about a 40-mile-an-hour gale on the promenade. My hands were freezing by the time I finished this. And but I actually determined to actually just film it from seeing it completely to it disappearing. And never do you see it going over the curve. You see it starting to change. You see it change from being fully visible to then going into the mirroring part, which is what you're starting to see now. So if I pause it,
how come you did it with the P900? How come you did it with the P900? This is P900 footage, isn't it?
It is, yeah.
I knew it was. Why didn't you use the P1000 just because it was raining?
No, because I was doing some other stuff with it and the battery died on it.
Ah, bummer.
So I was doing comparisons, looking at Blackpool Tower and stuff. Anyway, but this was with the P900, but you can clearly see now it's starting to mirror. So you catch the transition through all the different atmospheric conditions that happen with this boat as it disappears from seeing it in this position here, which is obviously you got some stretching going on because see the words on the Stena line. Look how big they are in this. Yeah, they're massive because that isn't the normal size of these. So obviously it was different conditions today, and what we were getting here was getting some stretch going on the hull. And then you see everything from that going into the mirroring part, going into the actual, it just fades into the distance and just disappears. It doesn't go over any curve. So I might release this as just one video. There's no explanation needed. It's just following the boat and seeing what happens to it. Yeah. How just
big those letters look.
Yeah, oh, the letters. Yeah, the letters look massive. And that isn't the normal size of them either.
What do you mean?
Well, if we looked at the image where's that image gone? Obviously, I've got it off screen now. Oh no, I haven't. Here we go. So there's the Stena line. There's how it normally looks. Yeah.
Well, not necessarily. Even though you're comparing something with a massive amount of compression to something with what is seemingly not a lot, it's still at a massive distance. So it's still going to suffer this effect.
It's being stretched. If you look at the E,
it looks like it's mirroring. It looks like it's sat on that beginning mirror, and it's just mirroring a little bit of the letters, which looks like the bottom's stretching.
That's what I say. Yeah, so it's looking like it is mirroring. You're right, but it's looking like it's stretching it. So this is what I'm trying to explain it. We understand it that it's mirroring. We understand it's mirroring, but it looks to the observer like it's being stretched.
Can I present a video that I linked into the chat and try and go through something that I figured out with my pal, or if where I'm going wrong, if I am.
Sure.
Depends. Is it your video? Do you own it?
No, I don't own it now.
Then no.
Is it not to get copyright stuff and that?
Yeah.
Okay, that's no worries.
What was it? I'm just about to round out, but if you can tell us in a couple of minutes, then great. I'll keep streaming while you tell us.
In the Hangout chat, there's a link. It's the last thing that's been posted in the chat. It's in there, and at like 19 seconds, you'll see like a boat that's further in the distance. You'll see the boat that's closer, and everything after the horizon tends to sink down. You always know that the horizon level, everything after that will start to bend down. There's loads of examples of curvature, apparently, apparent curvature, and it's always at the horizon line that things start to bend.
Oh, that's that Wolfie video. You know Wolfie, where he has that cargo ship going back in the distance that passes behind the boat in the foreground that's anchored. So
I don't watch Wolfie,
that's
to be honest.
Wolfie got that.
I have never watched Wolfie.
But yeah, that's. I think the boat in the background is reacting to atmospheric magnification, and I feel like everything after the horizon line is going to appear to be down. So you see that boat, it may appear like, oh look, that's curved and the other one's curvature, but really that one's just before the horizon level. The one after the horizon level sinks down.
Well, no, what happens is when it pokes its little nose out from as it goes behind the boat and it pokes its nose out at what you actually see is the start of the hull, right? You see its nose poke out, but you can literally see how compressed it is, right? Well, as soon as it pokes its nose through the front, you can see how compressed that hull is on the boat. Honestly, because of the image that I've just showed, where we're comparing the two, right? That's the compression. It's like a sliver, so that entire hull is visible, but it's been compressed to just a sliver. And the little waves in the foreground that I've paused it on a screenshot actually, where the wave.
That I'm happy to show. Do you want to bring that up, Brenty? Do you want to screen share that, and then I will round out, just so at least we've got a couple of images of what you're talking about.
Sure, yeah.
And then I'll round out.
I'll have to find the video. Yeah, here it is. If I hide that, so what we have obviously is this is the boat passing in the background. And before I was looking into all this compression stuff, when Wolfie put this out, it stumped me. But now that we know that, you know, that little sliver at the front here, it's a little sliver. That's just in the compression, right? Out of the compression, all the containers and everything, and this part up here, this mast, that's fine. But the actual boat itself, the hull, is just compressed. Really,
I thought that everything behind the horizon was being magnified, and
you got
behind the horizon is going to sink down. Whereas you see the boat in the foreground, that's before the horizon, so that's why you can see the full boat in proper image. Then anything else behind it is going to appear to be sinking behind the curve, when really it's just sinking behind the horizon level. And obviously, the horizon level is where everything after that, due to perspective,
it's a huge swell as well, isn't it? Look, you can see that
this wave. It's a tiny wave. It's not very big. I would say that's probably only a couple of feet, 3 feet. But look, if you run a line across, it's going to be higher than the boat, because that is so that's in the foreground, that's in the distance, but it's so compressed. The whole of that boat is so compressed.
I need to learn more about this compression.
Look how high it is compared to the waterline of the boat in the near ground as well. You can see.
I think compression is going to be an awful. I think going forward, we're going to be looking into this an awful lot more.
Okay.
Well, also, like with the demonstration of the lighthouse, there's waves involved, and it's obviously much further away based on the fact that it's considerably smaller. The angular size of that boat in the distance has reduced quite a lot compared to the one in the foreground, which takes up pretty much the entire frame. So obviously the one in the background is considerably further away. And as demonstrated by Ranty with the hijacked footage that Miles Davis used, you've got waves, and the further away they are, the more likely they are to cross the midpoint and cause an obstruction. So a certain amount of the bottom of this boat will be obscured by waves, no matter how calm it is. And you've got the effect of Aries diffraction. It's further away, therefore it is in a limited angle. You can just see from looking at it that the boat in the foreground, you've got a massive angle to it. It's in the foreground, it's filling the whole frame. Whereas the angle to the thing in the background, obviously, is much less. So because of that reduced viewing angle, it's going to get compressed. And it's going to look smaller. This is all perspective-based stuff. Anyway, did anybody want to get the last word before I round out?
Thanks for listening. Thanks for having us.
I'll finish off just by reminding people that Channel Q thinks that Flat Earth channels, possibly this one, has been miseducating people on the curve calculator. No, the curve calculator does not take into consideration perspective. It does not reduce things as a function of distance. It also bends light to the rate of 7/6 of the radius of the Earth, and it presupposes the radius of the Earth. So it's not us that are teaching people the wrong thing. It's the curve calculator itself, Channel Q. You should learn about it. It's not very good for you ballers. Sorry.
And with that, I will say, Radius Gravitas Dominus Spiritus Sanctus Arwin. Go in peace, in R you trust. The power of R compels you. A massive thank you to all of the live audience for tuning in and hopefully sharing this debate, and of course a massive thank you to all of the panel for making this debate possible. If you hated the show, then you know exactly what to do, but if you liked it, maybe consider sharing it with a friend or subscribing if you've not done so already. I've been Nathan Oakley, and I'll see you all in the next video.
Oh, what a day! What a lovely day!